buttons, unbuttoned. If you are not wearing a tie. If you are not wearing a jacket, you are not wearing a tie. I will say that again. If you are not wearing a jacket, you are not wearing a tie. Your jacket comes on before your tie does. And you'd be very surprised at how cool you can get just by removing your tie. You may not need to take your jacket off. And finally, no short sleeves. So roll your sleeves up. You should have the end of your sleeve up there. You should be able to pull it down. And what you're going to do... Oh, shoot. What you do to roll your sleeve up... Oh, I need a mic stand for this because I got two arms. All right, here we go. This comes all the way up first. So wherever it's going. Then we start to roll. And if you have a nice shirt that has a little bit of color here, which some do, you can show it off that way. And then we have a nice little collar part, and that's how people who have these the end of their shirt showing at the top of their roll do that. And it produces a much nicer, more neat roll than if you just try to wad and roll from the beginning. And that is how to wear a shirt. What are we doing? Okay. Oh.
Thank you so much. In which case, we're going to move on to Patrick, who I guess I'm going to have some sense of what he's going to talk about, but I'm going to let him decide that for himself. I'm going to try and give you 3 minutes.
Sure.
I'm going to figure out how to do that for you.
I think I titled my talk, Take More Risks, Give People Their Flowers. So I went to Minifest on the 31st, which was Sunday, and this was the exact same thing was going on, doing a lightning talk, and I wanted to say something I didn't know what to talk about. I knew I had this background in officiating, and I said, what the heck? I know that these people don't like sports, but I have an expertise here, and so I'll just give this talk. I gave the talk, and I got 2 pieces of feedback, which was kind of like going into like give your flowers, which is to say like tell people how you feel about them before like things are too late. One girl said, I hate all sports, but I loved your talk. And then Nathan Young was like, I think people at Less Online would like to hear this talk. And that kind of fundamentally changed my festival experience. I gave an hour-long talk on officiating at Less Online. Then I kind of went crazy and scheduled like 15 sessions during summer camp. I'm that guy, kind of putting all these things on the schedule, and like another 10 or 12 this session. And so it really is not my personality. I'm quite introverted, but something like the idea of like taking more risks, like something sparked in me by kind of seeing how that paid off for me, and I wouldn't have had the payoff. Just giving the talk wasn't enough. I had to get the feedback from people who actually cared to say something, and so you can't always know how you're going to impact someone in their lives. And like, it's really kind of made this camp and this festival season for me, and very much is like, it didn't change my life, but it's like a seminal inflection point in my life in terms of like my ability to kind of, I've been calling it my coming out party in terms of like meeting the community and being part of the community. So take more risks. It's a kind of asymmetric upside. It could only go so badly in 3 minutes, but it went very, very high on the upside. And then give people their flowers. Like, tell them how you feel about them. This could be your close friends, your family. You take it for granted, but like, you don't know how what you tell them can affect them kind of in ways you wouldn't appreciate. So thank you.
Thanks very much. And if you don't know Patrick, he does officiating in basketball, and he knows a lot of things about that. I didn't know anything about that, and I thought it was, as I say, he gave a 3-minute talk at Minifest, which was the week before Less Online. I really enjoyed that, and so I think you should ask him if you get him. If we could have the next speaker, please.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Derek, and I'm here to tell you about why apples and avocados like guacamole brown and how we can stop that. So you might think this is a fact of life, that you have certain fruits and they turn brown, they oxidize, right? Why does this happen? So there's this enzyme called polyphenol oxidase that takes these phenols, these molecules in fruits, and combines it with oxygen. It oxidizes it into quinones, and then later those quinones into like melanin-like pigments that produces the brown color you see. And this is released sort of whenever you cut or puree fruit that's in the cell vacuoles. But turns out you can actually get rid of this enzyme from fruits, and that they mainly turn out okay with the side effect of just not browning. So how would you do this? There's this apple on the market called the Arctic apple, and you can slice it up, and the slices will not turn brown. You know, it can still rot, but it just won't brown within like a few hours or something like that. And the way they accomplish this, they use RNA interference, which is you can look this up in some bio textbook, but it's like plants have a certain immune system that's designed to prevent expression of viral genes, and this sort of tricks the plant into not expressing this enzyme, and so or expressing it at much lower levels, and so as a result, they don't really go brown very easily. But what about guacamole? Guacamole avocados, it just it turns brown so quickly. Guacamole, it's sad how quickly it turns brown. But we can get rid of this. We are masters of genetic technology now. So there's some brilliant people who have used CRISPR to knock out this gene. As it turns out, if you remove a gene and you're not adding any genes, you can sell it as a not genetically modified organism because because you're not like adding anything. It's not transgenic, right? You don't need to label it. It's still, I think Europeans still don't like this under their regime. But in the US, you don't have to label it as GMO, which is great because a lot of people wrongly don't like GMOs. Anyways, they're working on bringing this to the market soon. So I think within like a couple of years, maybe you should be able to get some guacamole made from avocados that does not turn brown very quickly. Food science is progressing, and we can actually accomplish all these things that we thought were just facts of nature. We can solve them. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, the next speaker is me, so I guess I'm going to attempt to make this do the right amount of time, but okay, fine. We'll just end at 48 seconds. So the thing I do in my day job is I build bots for community notes on X. So I don't work for X, but I build bots. And so the way this works is that X has a number of funnels. They send out tweets, in particular tweets where someone has clicked request community note, but also that's the narrowest funnel, but there's broader funnels as well. Ones that maybe the broadest is perhaps where people on subjects, they tend to be dishonest or they tend to be misleading. And so those flow to our bot, and it runs a mix of grok to get all the replies, because often there's good information in the replies, and also some Opus 4.8. And so Opus takes the information that's done from a web search and the grok information, and it thinks, do we need to write a community note? And then it writes a note, which includes a URL, and there's a separate step which takes the URL and checks that the information in that supports the community note, and then we send it back. So that's what our bot does. And then there's a bridging algorithm, so people are split from left to right, and if many, many right-wing people vote on a note, that counts for much less than if a few left-wing people do, or maybe people from a broad spectrum. So like the more people you have who are very similar, the less it counts. And that means that if a note gets shown, it's probably consensus. Because if you have like many, many right-wing people saying it's very good or very bad, that counts for less, or many, many left-wing people. But if you have a broad spread of people, then each one of those votes counts for a lot. So the kinds of notes which outcompete in that system are those which are broadly agreed. So these are the notes which show. And so currently on X, about over 50% of all community notes shown on X are written by bots. And our bot writes about 2%. And so, got about another minute left. That is the way the community notes work. And the thing I'm doing at the moment is trying to think about more broad uses of community notes. So maybe podcasts, journal articles, like scientific journals, or we're looking at government outputs. So there's like a wide range of things where we want to see community notes. The real question is, currently X is a systemic actor, so they can choose to put community notes next to anything. And the question is, like, does this work if you have a non-systemic actor? Can we, as a separate website, produce podcasts, or do we need to lobby Spotify, lobby Apple Podcasts? That's the question. That's the question we're probably going to spend the next sort of year or so answering. Can we see community notes where we don't have the systemic actor, or does the systemic actor need to do that? Okay, thanks very much. If the next speaker would like to come up.
Hi all, my name is Glenn. I'm going to talk to you about one of my passion projects from last year, which was watching every episode of the CW teen drama Riverdale. If you don't know Riverdale, you probably are not like me. If you were in high school in the US in the year 2017, you were the prime audience of Riverdale. Somehow it outlasted that. It lasted for 7 seasons. There were 137 episodes, and it progressively got more and more off the rails. The premise of Riverdale is that you can take the characters of the Archie comics universe, whose entire characterization is firmly rooted in the nostalgia of the 1950s, and append them onto this into the landscape of a modern teen drama. So the all-American jock Archie Andrews is. Throughout the seasons, he starts as a musician. He's at one point a gang leader. He's a vigilante. He's everything. Jughead Jones, this character who's in the comics for comic relief, becomes this brooding gang leader. The girl next door, Betty Cooper, is a sadist. The situations that they're put into, if I were to summarize the 7 seasons of Riverdale, I would say in the first season, they solve the murder of one of their classmates and they have sex with each other. In the second season, they track down this murderer around town and they have sex with each other. In the third season, they play this board game that makes people kill themselves and they have sex with each other. In the fourth season, one of them goes to a boarding school, almost dies. Doesn't matter. They have sex with each other. In the fifth season, Veronica's dad bombs Archie's house, and they have sex with each other. They go into an alternate universe where they also have sex with each other, and then the dimensions merge and they have sex with each other. And then in the final season, in the 6th season, there's a warlock who tries to destroy the town, and they have sex with each other. And then finally, they go back in time to 1955, where they solve racism by having sex with each other. And did I mention that they have sex with each other? This is Riverdale. It's a great show. I really recommend that you all watch it.
Thank you so much. If we rub out the ones where people agree, so we can just keep a tag of everybody who disagreed with them being filmed. So just to say, if you don't wish to be filmed, you can ask not to be. And we're going to keep the track of that, but everyone who wishes to be filmed, we're going to rub out. Great. So you can just add yourselves in the middle.
Quick question before I start. Who here was in my building trains lightning talk a week ago? No one? Okay, I'm just going to give that one again then. All right. So, as many of you may know, we're all obsessed with building better trains. There is crap tons of argument online on what we should do and how we should do it, and train maps and research projects and stuff. And nobody ever sums up the basic things we need to do that will just work. And when you see serious research talk about it, they're always oh yeah, of course India builds half cost by building elevated, but once you adjust for that, they're not actually better. And that's stupid because this actually solves the problem. So here is how you build a metro system, cheap, fast, and effective. You build it above ground because tunneling is stupid and expensive. You build small stations, and the other way to build small stations is to build short stations end to end. So you build 3-car trains, and then you just make it automated so that you can just run them like small trains more frequently, which for everywhere in America outside of Manhattan and pretty much everywhere outside of some East Asian megacities is enough. And yeah, that just works. Why do we not do it? A, People think this is loud. People are wrong. Elevated trains were loud 100 years ago. We now know how to build them quiet. Numbers here. The New York elevated subway lines are like 105 decibels. BART down the street from here is like 90 decibels. Modern trains, like modern elevated trains, are like 65 decibels. This is like the street outside here, the traffic in the street outside here, like a calm, mid-sized road. This is not especially loud. People think they're ugly. People are stupid. First of all, I think they're nice, but mostly people just miss the good parts, which is A, there are people in the train, and looking outside from an elevated train is a lot nicer than looking outside in a tunnel. But more importantly, B, every train line you build displaces, on average, something like 8 lanes of highway and like 1 or 2 square miles of parking lot. So that's much uglier than an elevated train line. I have a minute left to list various side benefits. A, you can have Wi-Fi on the train. You don't have to build special adjustments. B, homeless people do not die. One of the less known facts about the New York subway system is that homeless people go camping in the tunnel, go sleeping in the tunnels, and somewhere like 10 to 20 people a year die by being run over by trains because they were sleeping in the tunnels. C, easier maintenance. This is cheaper, but also like cheaper maintenance also means that it's, it just spends less time online. D, I forgot to say numbers here because the numbers are insane. Elevated trains are 2 to 4 times cheaper, not like 20%, literally 2 to 4 times. That means for the same amount of money, you build 2 to 4 times the speed. Shortened railways are like 30%, so not as much of a big deal, but enough. And E, you can build an entire train line in a single 4-year political term, which erases a lot of political costs because you can have it in time for re-election.
Great. And I know I'm going to remember this, but we should have a conversation about HS2 and how they could do it better afterwards. I'd like that. Okay, who's next? Somebody, Saul. Thank you so much.
Did you know that we could solve global warming, like, in a few years? It would take a few years of action. The actual drawdown, the actual sequestration of carbon would take a few decades after that. It turns out that basalt, there are particular kinds of basalt where they weather not by oxidizing, but instead by absorbing carbon dioxide. This is, in fact, fairly scalable. If you crush up a whole bunch of this kind of basalt, it will just pull a ton of carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. The question is how much, and how do you get a whole bunch of crushed up basalt? Well, it turns out that if you go off the coast of the Pacific, there are huge, chunks of land, huge chunks of ocean floor that are made out of this particular kind of basalt. But Saul, you say, the bottom of the ocean, how do we do anything with that? The answer, and this is why nobody is brave enough, everybody is too cowardly to solve our problem, is that what you do is you make an 81 gigaton nuclear weapon, you bury it 5 miles underground, you set it off, it crushes all of the basalt in like a 10-mile radius, and this absorbs 100 ppm of carbon and just turns it into chemistry on the bottom of the ocean. This is, in fact, the cycle that the planet uses to sequester carbon naturally. It's just that it usually occurs on geologic timescales by way of acidification and stuff. We are not bound to geology. We can make this faster.
You heard it here first, folks. That's what we're going to do. If anybody asks you what I don't know what the weirdest thing you heard at Manifest was, but I think that's an early entry. We should detonate a giant nuclear bomb at the bottom of the ocean. Who is next? Thomas has done a great job so far. Big round of applause for Thomas.
Hi, everyone, and I'm here to tell you how everyone is wrong about the Space Shuttle Challenger. This is mostly me crimping Diane Vaugh's excellent book, The Challenger Launch Decision. So, Challenger is the engineering morality play. It is schedule pressure crystallized into a narrative. And when it was investigated in front of Congress after the terrible tragedy of the accident, some key quotes and some key ideas lodged in the popular consciousness. Most famously, Lawrence Mulroy, the relevant person at NASA Marshall who was overseeing the booster producers, was quoted as saying during the meeting where they decided to launch, "My God, Thiokol," the booster producers, "when do you want me to launch? Next April? Question mark. Looks like schedule pressure to me. Actually, oh, wait.
I lost track.
Okay. Okay. Actually, that is the opposite of what happened. Here is a fun fact about the story. So Thiokol had been struggling with the problem with the booster O-rings for years. They had thought it wasn't going to be an ongoing problem. A day, literally 24 hours before Challenger launched, someone had the brainwave that under very cold conditions, O-rings could get into a worse condition and might be more likely to fail. And they frantically called NASA and demanded that NASA stop the launch. Notably, this had never happened before. NASA had built a very powerful safety culture that was built on brutal, unrelenting reviews of everything the contractors said. Because the idea was that the contractors would always be advocating for launching, and NASA would be the one really holding their feet to the coals about safety. In this meeting, which was put together at the last moment, a bunch of Thiokol engineers who were not used to that design review process were suddenly put in contact with NASA people who were used to it. Thiokol presented their data, but it wasn't very good data. And notably, the line that they said for what the safe temperature was much higher than reality and would have disqualified half of the existing shuttle launches. The NASA engineers tore their argument to shreds correctly because it was bad at the time. So, "My God, Thiokol, when do you want me to launch? Next April?" in context actually meant if you were right about this, we wouldn't be able to launch shuttles ever, and you would have been wrong for the last many years. Thiokol went to video conference. While they were on video conference, NASA tried to cancel the launch. They started calling up the chain, and then the Thiokol engineers, who were culturally not used to the type of design review culture that NASA thought was safer, thought better of themselves, concluded that they must have been wrong, and reversed their recommendation. In other words, NASA led to this disaster by trying to be too safe, and funneling it down into a question of schedule pressure misses that.
Great. I want you to come back up here because I'm the king, so I can ask this. So you don't think that Reagan wished to have a video conference with a teacher in space? You don't think that was any part of it?
There's an excellent 11-page takedown of that in the first chapter of the book that I referenced, but short version is no, because they did do a delay on the shuttle about 2 days earlier, and were partly through considering that they were going to do something similar.
So,
more importantly, the fact that the engineers who were on the ground actually did start calling up a process that would have canceled the launch if Thiokol hadn't approved their recommendation suggests that, like, even if political pressure was going to be applied, it hadn't been applied yet when the launch was uncanceled.
Because you're breaking my heart here, because as we both know, but maybe the room doesn't, originally before they were going to send a teacher into space, they briefly decided maybe to send Big Bird into space. And one of my favorite conspiracy theories is that Big Bird caused the Challenger disaster. And you're telling me here that that isn't the case.
No, poorly architected, but well-intentioned safety culture caused the accident.
Secretly, Big Bird was hired by Thiokol.
Well, this hurts me, but that which can be killed by the truth ought to be. So let's have our next speaker.
Let me know when it starts. So, hello everyone. So my thesis here is basically that you should be part of more subcultures. This is, I think, especially an issue. I don't know if it's an issue, to be honest. I don't know rationalists that well. But I feel like this is especially an issue for a lot of people. So for myself, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and I was like really big into, I guess, the whole Muslim culture. And I wasn't really big into it, but that's what I grew up in. After that, my parents made a great decision to move to Saskatchewan. So I lived in Saskatchewan, and I saw their culture of, like, the cultural hierarchy of sort of having a Ford F-150 as being like a big status symbol or so on, right? After that, I ended up moving to another city where I got really involved with some theater kids, which was really great. I got really into Hamilton, watched Wicked and stuff like that. And soon after, I now live in Vancouver and I'm enjoying now. Another really good benefit of this is oftentimes when you're trying to figure out what people think about like politically or so on, it is honestly really, really useful. After I graduated college, I worked for this political party in Canada, and for one of those things, they sent me out to Newfoundland. I don't know if you guys know where that is. I did go to Newfoundland, and honestly, having watched Come From Away, the musical, really did help me just relate to people there. I could just talk to people about stuff and honestly earn their trust in a way that I would never have otherwise, right? And I just had a much, like, I'd say Come From Away is a horrible way to think about Newfoundland culture, but it is better than nothing, right? So it did help me understand their culture a lot more. It helped me honestly make a little bit more of a difference in that political campaign than I would have otherwise. So I would say if you get the opportunity to go hang out with people that you think you have nothing in common with, go do it just for the experience. It's honestly worth doing.
And to give a forecasting spin on this, if the next person wants to come up, like often forecasting is about the median of a set of forecasts, and in some ways, like I think the median of a set of subcultures is much more likely to get you to the truth than just one, which is, I think, for my personal life, having multiple subcultures gets me to a better place. Who is next? No one is signed up. Okay, in which case, I'm going to give a talk on any subject you request me to. Pornography. Okay, great. 3-minute talk on pornography. Someone else, if we don't get a talk by the end of this, then we're going to all leave. So that's up to you, kids. But I'm going to talk about this in the meantime. I think that... Let's go. What are my views on pornography? My views on pornography are that it seems fine. I mean, I think some people dislike it or like it. I guess I have takes on my favorite porn, but I'm probably not going to give those in this setting. I guess there's a weird thing with pornography that clearly people have preferences in terms of pornography. If you search the most watched pornography, you can learn lots of things about people, about like their racial preferences, about their preferences on height, weight, whatever. Like people actually clearly have preferences for pornography. If you can find these quite easily. Like Pornhub will occasionally publish their preference, like people's preferences, like by state. And this seems to be like an interesting thing, particularly in terms of feminism, that do you wish to push people's preferences towards some sort of global mean, or is it acceptable, in most things, it's unacceptable, for instance, to have racial preferences, right? Like, if you were hiring and you were like, oh, I tend to like, I particularly like white people, everyone will be like, whoa, that's unacceptable. But as far as porn's concerned, that's the thing people do, right? Likewise, I really like, I like middle-aged women as far as, that seems kind of sexist, kind of ageist, but that's fine as far as porn's concerned. I think this is like an interesting question, right? To what extent should we seek to move people's pornographic preferences towards some sort of more egalitarian mean? And I guess there's just something I think about sometimes, likewise, to the extent that porn is sometimes cruel or ugly, like, should we slowly be trying to push people towards some more beautiful view, or do we allow it? And if so, like, is that fine in literature, in erotica? Like, at what sense on some spectrum does it become acceptable for us to be like a little bit racist, a little bit sexist? And at what point does it stop? And I think it's just a weird one, because porn, I guess, is sort of beyond the law, and so people just do whatever they want. But I don't know, this is something that sits in my head. Like, if we... And I guess personally, I just try and like nudge it a bit. Like, I try and be like a bit of a better person. I try not to watch porn, which causes me to become awful in some sense. But I don't have a good answer to this. So maybe this is something you can think about. I guess I would recommend that people don't watch porn that makes them become cruel or awful, but also that they don't try and only watch porn which is perfectly moral, because probably that will cause some suppression of your shadow in ways that will cause you problems later. But I guess as a society, we could move away from the worst kinds and slowly move towards better kinds. But I think it's a strange question that nobody I've so far had a good answer to. This was my unwilling pornographic. Let's be clear, just in case anyone came halfway through, I didn't choose this topic. But we have 30 seconds left, in which case I think somebody signed up, so come on up.
Before I start, did I accidentally take your backpack the other day? I took someone's Amazon Basics backpack.
You took Noah's backpack.
All right.
Noah Topper, I think, is the person who...
All right. That was a weird way to wake up at 2 a.m. Yeah, anyways. Okay, talk number 2 is about the history of the Sidewinder air-to-air AIM, Air Interception Missile AIM Sidewinder. All right, so the backstory here is it's the 1950s. The U.S. Air Force is working off moving prop planes to jets, and they want the air warfare of the future, and part of this is moving from guns to air-to-air missiles. Some background here, the Germans had experimented a bit with air-to-air missiles during the war. It turns out they had mostly been doing guided missiles. The problem with guided missiles is that you have to have someone to guide them and you have to communicate with them. This means either, using 1940s or 50s radio, which is terrible, or having them on a cable, which tends to get them tangled up. The Ukraine war has had similar issues where you can have, drones on Wi-Fi, like some kind of wireless communication, which is now much better but can be jammed, or with really long wires, which has been working better for them lately, but tends to get tangled up in things, and definitely didn't work in the 1950s. So, what do they do? So the Navy's weapons lab, distinct from the Air Force lab, in China Lake in the Mojave Desert, come up with this idea of a missile that would orient to lock on heat signatures with a very simple design. Before I get into the pictures of the design, my few favorite things. First of all, they named it the Sidewinder because it is a heat-seeking infrared-based predator developed in the Mojave Desert. Named for the snake. The other favorite thing is they developed it in the China Lake lab and then immediately used it over a Chinese body of water. It was used in battles over the Straits of Taiwan in the Chinese Civil War. They shot down some Soviet, Chinese communist MiGs. At one point, they launched a missile at a Chinese MiG. It got lodged in the wing. The MiG went around, landed back home, and they gave the missile to the Soviets, who then reverse engineered it. Just how to build it. I'm not going to go into the full thing. My favorite part is this part because I always thought it would be absurd to build something like this without modern electronics. The way it's built, you have this kind of irregular spotter, sunlight blocker behind an infrared sensor. This spins around, and this thing spins around, and then you get these kind of modulated signals, and these you can just do some kind of reverse Fourier transform with analog electronics and then direct it to the fins to get very direct which way and how far out is the heat signature and how do I spin. It's surprisingly neat, and I am still to this day amazed I used it. It worked so far back. Air-to-air missiles did not, in fact, work in practice in the 50s, 60s, or 70s. In the 80s, they did. And the majority of air-to-air intercept missile takedowns were doing the Bekaa Valley battle between Israel and Syria in the 80s.
If you could just write my porn talk and that I do not wish that to be recorded. Thanks. I can't really remember what I said. It seemed fine, but let's not run that particular gambit.
So I'm giving a talk about lawn care and landscaping is actually 5% of American pollution. It's actually not even a lot of the CO2 pollution. It's a lot of particulate matter pollution and other pollutants that actually cause a lot of health problems, heart attacks, cancer, strokes. And beyond the pollutant health effects, there's also almost 100,000, about almost 90,000 or so ER visits every year in America from the actual injuries. About half of them are ER visits that are severe, as broken bones, amputations. A lot of it's from riding mowers. So my talk is here to promote the little Roomba robots. They can just like the ones that vacuum your house, they can plug themselves in and go out and mow the lawn. They're actually much safer. Many people are afraid of putting spinning blades on a robot, but surprisingly, the way we're mowing already is actually more dangerous. And they're quite capable. They can handle pretty steep slopes, can California is actually ahead of most of the country in terms of California is one of the first places in America that actually banned new sales of gas-powered lawn equipment. So existing stuff is grandfathered in, but California is one of the first places to recognize the extent of this problem to take that action. What else? And it just makes sense. Anyone who is paying for landscaping, if you're doing your own landscaping and you don't value your own time, then it's different. But anyone who's paying for landscaping, the little robots will be an order of magnitude cheaper. So people are paying an order of magnitude more money right now for landscaping that is wasting people's time to do the work. It's causing 5% of American pollution, and it's causing tens and tens and tens of thousands of ER trips annually where people are losing limbs, breaking bones, and all sorts of injuries. All right. Yeah, I can give the rest of the time back. That's
Great. Thanks so much.
I want to talk to you about more television. I consider myself not a consumer, no, not a crass consumer, not a critic, that's too harsh, but a connoisseur of American television culture. Now I want to tell you about a sitcom called According to Jim. Who here, probably the older people, who remembers According to Jim? One of you. Okay, two of you. So this is a show that aired from 2001 to 2009, and it is the most formulaic sitcom I have ever seen. You may be aware of Everybody Loves Raymond, King of Queens, whatever. This one is worse. It stars Jim Belushi, the lesser Belushi, as a character named Jim, just Jim. He has a wife, doesn't matter what her name is. Her name is Jim's wife. He has kids, doesn't matter how many. And every episode goes that Jim's wife, that's a proper noun, that's her name, asks him to do something, just basic household task. He doesn't do it. He just sits on the couch instead. He comes up with some elaborate scheme to deceive his wife into thinking that he did it. He is found out, and he faces no consequences for it and blames her for everything. An average episode of According to Jim had 10 million viewers. Had 10 million viewers. If you were a show on the air today and you had 10 million viewers, you would be one of the top viewed shows on network TV. And yet, what's amazing to me is that According to Jim has essentially no lasting cultural relevance, despite being this massive phenomenon. It lasted for 8 seasons. That's longer than Riverdale, and I think this really tells me something about. There is a value of prestige. There is a value of high culture, that it's something that lasts. Otherwise, you're just Jim. And who wants to be Jim?
And quickly, while we're here, do you think that Avatar or just Jim has had a lasting, larger social reference?
I haven't seen Avatar, so According to Jim.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's have our next speaker. I also want to say that we've gained people across this session, which is always a good session in my mind. So, and now the wonderful Elliot Glazer.
Can I pull up YouTube, by the way? The timer still will go 3 minutes. Fine with that.
I can, yeah, sure. What do you want me to search?
Type in the video game, I Wanna Fly Far Away Deathless.
Okay, great. My YouTube is deciding as one search. I'm actually going to give you extra time for this. It's fine.
All right, thank you.
I want to fly far away, deathless. Great. Yeah, I hadn't considered you can just play a 3. This is my YouTube recommendation. You can judge me for that.
Yes, I can win.
I want to fly.
Wanna, it's from a video. It's a part of a gaming series.
Yep, just pull up that one. It's not by me. Yep. So I was a part of this video game community called I Want to Be the Guy video game community. It was an old school retro platformer. I don't care about the original. What's notable to me is the gaming engine. It's a platforming gaming engine, same genre as Mario. So this video is not the main focus of my talk. It is just to give you a sense of what the gameplay is like. This is a very generic game in this engine. No custom assets, only vanilla assets. I set myself a challenge, which was to create a level in this engine, only one screen large, 600 by 800 pixels if it matters, with only vanilla assets that is as hard as possible. And to give it an objective criterion in the sense of the minimum amount of time it takes to play and complete under perfect gameplay. And it must be, in fact, possible. I will give you guys 1 minute to make, in your own head, your own predictions. With 50% confidence, how long of a level did I manage to make? 90 percentile confidence, 99 percentile confidence upper bound, 99.9% confidence upper bound, and so on.
Okay, so you want 50, 19, 99, 99.9.
Whatever. Make it a very confident upper bound. To like the minimum amount of time to complete the level under perfect gameplay using only basic assets from the engine. How long blocks? What? How long is the level? Is it one screen? One screen only. That's my constraint, so I can't trivially make it a completely long level.
And we're talking tasks here? We're talking...
Yeah, literally perfect gameplay.
Okay, well, I'm going to go 99.9. I'm going to go 10 hours.
Nice. Okay, so when they have had time to think, pull up the name of the level, which is One Must Imagine the Kid Happy.
One.
Will it end before the heat out of the universe?
Ooh. The video's abridged, to say the least. Good. Yep. One must imagine the kid happy. Taz, 500 quadrillion years. So the exploit that I use to make this level is, so look at the upper left corner. Your position is 2 double precision floating point variables. And I found a loop such that under idealized rational arithmetic, nothing should be happening, but because it's not optimized rational arithmetic and the gravity is parabolic and not dyadic rational, you can make a 1-bit manipulation every loop. And then similarly, each time you go back to that 1 square there, you make a similar manipulation horizontally by 1 bit. So you have I think a few billion, 100,000 year or so loops to get the perfect pixel to do the final step. Incidentally, I could trivially have made it a slightly longer. I could have made like 10 copies squeezed into the 1 screen or something. I just wanted to show like that within a couple orders of magnitude of the optimal level, which I think makes my point clear. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I'm surprised. Okay, next speaker. Saul again.
Yes.
We got about another 4 minutes of so we've probably got maybe this is the last talk, I don't know.
All right. Do any of you get annoyed when it's too easy to understand your fiction? Do any of you get annoyed when the authors of your fiction don't understand logistics or economics, game theory, queuing theory? Do you ever get annoyed when the authors of your fiction try to grapple with philosophy and difficult questions of morality and end up writing Harry Potter fan fiction? Well, have I got a book for you, or rather a series. The Commonweal by Graydon Saunders is wonderful fantasy of the form, what would it take to build an egalitarian society, a good place to live, in a world where physics hates you and understands game theory? See, what happened is about a quarter of a million years ago, somebody built something called the power. And the power is magic, or it looks approximately magic. You know, we don't really know what's going on, but it's certainly magical-ish. And, well, let's say that the odds are stacked against anybody in this universe living happily. Because, for example, talent with the power is exponentially distributed with a little tiny bump way at the end for like, you know, high-end talents. And there's also this thing in the power where it's really good at mind control of a very specific form. It's not just that you can like change people's minds or take them over or whatever. No, what actually happens is that the strongest talent in a geographical area, I believe it's specifically something like a convex bounded area, can express dominion. And dominion is complete control. As a result, the only stable social system for most of history has been the mad sorcerer king. And because they have to exert dominion and maintain their dominion, well, what do? But they engineer bioweapons. And they engineer their population to do things like obey anybody with more talent. And so a quarter of a million years on, you know, the world wants to kill you because it's full of horrible critters that have been bioengineered as defenses and yada, 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 yada. And there are all sorts of horrible social structures and yada, yada, yada. So what do? You build a civilization with a language constructed so that people can't give imperatives, so that nobody can accidentally give anybody else orders. That's just the beginning of this series. Commonweal, Graydon Saunders, highly recommended.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, that I think is our time. So thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been Lightning Talks, and have a wonderful rest of Manifest. Thanks so much.